I was on mute again. Sorry about that. Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm very glad to see you here. I'm so glad you joined us. Today, we're going to be talking about spiritual awakening versus emotional awakening and what they have in common, and some of the things that we might not think about in our spiritual awakening, and how important our emotional awakening is. I'm going to go into more detail about that. But before that, I wanted to let you know how excited I am that you are here, and that I hope that you enjoy the casual environment that we have, especially within the comments and in the chat. Please feel free to introduce yourself to the other viewers. Feel free to ask questions during the broadcast. I do check in on the chat throughout. I'd love to get to know a little bit more about you and how I can better serve you and serve this community. So, of course, before we get started, I would like to take a moment and invite the Great Mother to bless our time together. So, if you'll join me for the invocation. O great Goddess, Lady of the night and the silvery moon, she whom is the darkness and the light that shines through it. Hail to thee, great Lady of the moon, and hear us, your children, as we ask of your divine presence here within our sacred circle of light, where we have come to take in the great beauty, strength, and wisdom in each and every one of us. Blessed be. Thank you. So, today's reading from the Book of One is a very short one, and it has a lot to do with what we're going to be talking about today. This is from page 129 in the Book of One, and it's called Your Thoughts. Falling into the pit of speculation or of an unmanifested reality is an illusion. Take a moment and guide your thoughts to this moment. Give yourself some distance from your thoughts and make them easier to manage. Know that bliss is the natural state of your soul, and just breathe. And with that, let's do our short grounding meditation. If you'd like to join me, just close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Give yourself some and welcome back. Oh, where am I? I lost my camera. Sorry about that. There I am. It seems that, by the way, if you're noticing that the stream is like laggy or something, I updated the software and apparently they reset all my settings. So I'm trying to find the right setting again. So I apologize if the video looks a little laggy. I will get that fixed hopefully for next week. I'll have to try a new setting for that. But hopefully you can hear me very clearly and you won't miss any of the message. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about the difference between spiritual awakening versus emotional awakening. And the funny thing is that when I started my shamanic and magical training, I don't know how many of you have been in a coven or how many of you have gone through the degree system and any kind of magical group or whatnot. But usually in the first degree, we ask you, and they asked me, to kind of do some internal housekeeping. Uh, Many times, we'll ask people to go into therapy to kind of, get the inner balance that is needed. As well, we are asked to kind of look at any kind of emotional shortcomings that we might have, because the reality of it is important uh, when we are, performing a magical rite, or as we're learning magic and learning how to cast spells and all that kind of stuff, that we're coming from a, how shall we say, a healthy mental state. I think I talked a little bit about it last week, where, I always say to myself, I don't like to do spells when I'm reacting to something. And this is a good example to that, but this is a greater picture of the whole idea of spiritual awakening and emotional awakening. I remember before I started my training, I had my profound spiritual awakening, which is the one I had with the emissaries of Light One. That was my shamanic vision quest and whatnot. And even though I had done the work emotionally and physically and spiritually in order to prepare for it, it once I had gone through it, I was so enamored and so taken away, swept away by the beauty of the understanding of the cosmic laws and just that whole connection of getting to know my higher self, getting to know my guides, getting to know the other realms of consciousness that are out there, that I spent a lot of my time just focusing on my spiritual well-being and trying to be uh, doing everything I can to focus on my enlightenment, on my spiritual progress, my spiritual evolution, my spiritual awakening, and doing everything I can to get to that place of enlightenment. Uh, Unfortunately, what happens when we do this, and I learned that the hard way, is that we take away the focus to our own emotional well being. And when we're having our spiritual awakening, it gives us the opportunity to incorporate an emotional awakening as well. And a lot of times, myself included, many of us don't take advantage of this, this window of awakening and incorporating our emotional well-being into that as well. So as the years went by, I started having a lot of, how shall we say, I don't want to say, yeah, I guess I will say emotional imbalances. I wasn't necessarily taking care of myself the way I should have. And it wasn't until one day that a healer friend of mine had offered to do a chakra balancing on me. And I don't know how many of you have had a chakra balancing, but basically, the healer, including myself, this is the method I use, is we kind of check each particular chakra to see how open or how closed they are. And even before starting the healing, she said to me, Bernard, your aura, you're floating above your body. You're not even in your body. You're like way up here. You're like 2 feet above you're 2 feet above your physical body. She's like, that's not good. It means that you're not really grounded in your physical body and you're not really connecting to your emotional body. And that kind of threw me for a loop. And of course, when she did the chakra check, it seemed that my bottom three chakras were kind of locked up. So it was exactly what we were talking about, what she was talking about. Thank goodness she kind of opened them up. And in the months and years to come, things did kind of, become a little easier. My life became easier, and all those emotional things that I wasn't paying attention to, I started paying attention to and giving them the love and support that they needed. I find that many of us in the spiritual world, whether it's the pagan world, the magical world, the new age world, the awakening, spiritual awakening world, whatever you want to call it, that there is this focus, and I talk about this all the time, that there's this focus of um, not embracing our humanity. When I started doing this work on YouTube and Facebook and on the GIC and whatnot, I ended up coming to the phrase of empower your human experience. And that was for the reason being that it was meant to be a reminder that while we are spiritual beings, we're still having a human experience. And in that human experience, we are still going to have moments of sadness, moments of anger, moments of joy and elation, of course, and all of that. But it is important that we are not in denial of our emotions. And I'm going to share a little bit of a personal anecdote in all of this because, as many of you know, I went through a personal crisis in my own life for the last couple months. I'm happy to say it seems to be tapering off, and I'm coming back out into the sunshine. But it made me. I noticed some characteristics. Because of it, I started noticing characteristics that I had been doing over the past couple of years. And I'm sure some of you may do it yourself, that when we start feeling uncomfortable, or when we start feeling sadness, or when we start feeling anxiety or anything like that, we're like, oh, no, 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 no. And we start to push it away. We push away the uncomfortable feelings, again, whether it be anxiety, sadness, or whatnot, instead of sitting in the emotion and allowing it to to play out. We kind of like push ourselves away, and we do everything we can not to allow that emotion to take hold. I know I have, and that led to me getting stuck into having a lot of anxiety again. Having gone through this and still going through it, learning to become friends with my emotions again, including the bad ones. We think, we feel sometimes that, we only want the happy emotions. We only want the joyful emotions. We only want the blissful emotions. We don't want the anger. We don't want the sadness. We don't want the fear. We don't want the anxiety. And yes, of course, our spiritual awakening kind of gave us a glimpse of what things could be once we spiritually ascend, or once we get into that place of spiritual enlightenment, where there is no fear, where there is no duality, that there is no sadness and happiness, there is no joy or depression, but we're human. And in being a human being, it's important for us to be able to embrace and experience and allow room for those contrasting emotions to be a part of our lives. If we want to feel happiness, we must allow room for sadness. If we want to feel peace and calm, we have to give room for fear and anxiety. If we want to feel, we must give room to all of the emotions a space to exist. When we are resisting those negative emotions, all we're doing is creating more anxiety. A great example of, for me, I can only share an anecdote with me. During the last couple months when I was going through the crisis with my best friend, I was getting anxiety, and I was getting, that monkey mind that's spinning out like, oh my God, this is horrible. What's going on? Da, da, da. And I was doing everything I can not to feel it. I would take my deep breaths and try to calm down. I was taking medicine or herbs or whatever, just not to feel that. Instead, and by pushing all of that away, it kind of like stuck around longer for me, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that it's comfortable. Of course, it's not comfortable. Uncomfortable emotions are uncomfortable emotions. Again, fear, anxiety, sadness, all of those things are uncomfortable emotions. And of course, it's normal to want to push them away. But the funny trick about this for me that I've come to realize is that if we are so spiritually awakened, if we are so enlightened, if we are so knowledgeable in spirituality, if we are so knowledgeable in the dynamic of being a spiritual being in a human body, how come we deny our humanity? How come we label anxiety as something bad? How come we label sadness and depression as something bad? Now, there's something to be said for PTSD. I think I might have shared it with you. I was diagnosed with PTSD several months ago. And, or there's something uncomfortable about anxiety disorders. There's something uncomfortable about depressive disorders. And of course, nobody wants to live in that 24/7. And we want to do the things we can to get out of it. I'm not discounting in any way how horrible these episodes of fear, anxiety, trauma, triggers and all that stuff that comes along with it are. I'm not saying they're not horrible. Of course, I know they're horrible. But I have found if we're going to get through it, well, let me just share with you. Somebody said to me several weeks ago, the next time you start feeling anxiety, instead of trying to push it away and saying, oh my God, I have anxiety again. Oh my God, I got to get rid of the anxiety. I got to push this anxiety away, which in turn makes the anxiety stick around longer because you're having anxiety about having anxiety. It's a pretty nasty cycle. But instead of that, lean into it. Lean into it, sit with it, and allow it to pass. By the way, I am only a spiritual counselor. I am only an ordained minister. I am not a psychologist. Legally, I can only do spiritual counseling. So, take this all with a grain of salt. But that was probably one of the best things of advice that were given to me. Learning to come to accept that anxiety is a part of life, that fear is a part of life, that sadness is a part of life, actually reconnected me with um, my higher self. It kind of fine tuned me again. It needed to be retuned. I needed to be retooled and retuned. And by practicing sitting with my emotions, my negative, well, negative is a relative term, but the uncomfortable emotions, I found that um, they're not lasting as long anymore. And I don't need the medicine, to calm me down as much anymore. So let's talk a little bit about the differences of spiritual awakening versus emotional awakening. And I'm using this is from Berkeley, berkeley.edu. So apparently they did some studies and all this, and I wanted to give you some, some good references to all of this. But the examples of spiritual wellness include having an overall sense of peace and well-being. Yes, when I am in that state of spiritual connection and groundedness, which is usually when I'm in a state of deep meditation or trance or anything like that. Yes, I do have an overall sense of peace and well being. When we are spiritually awakened, we begin to have the ability to have that mind body connection. And this is for those of us who know. Well, for example, when I was trained, my shamanic teacher said it is your goal to have one foot in in the physical realm, the emotional realm, and the spiritual realm, all at one time simultaneously. And I'm leaving out the physical awakening. I'll just do a footnote now, actually, about the physical awakening of taking care of ourselves. Uh, yes, several years ago, I started realizing I needed to take better care of my health, and I felt better ever since. And yes, being healthier, eating healthier, reducing those vices that I used to have, which I do have. I just do them much less now. The occasional drink. Actually, I drink on Saturday night, and I smoke a half a package of cigarettes a day compared to what I used to. That's fantastic. But so yes, physical awakening is a part of it. Your health is your physical health is a part of it, but we're not going to get into that today. Spiritual wellness and awakening helps you to understand that you are part of a larger global community. I always talk about we are one human family. Another one is recognizing that spirituality is a personal experience. It's your path and your path alone. When we are spiritually awakened, we respect the values and beliefs of others. And I will get a little personal here and say and give you an opinion, my opinion of how I find it ridiculous on some of these awakening websites and so-called awakened masters talking about how their way is the only way, or how these people are evil and that people are evil and this one's wrong and that one's wrong. No, no, no. When we are spiritually awakened, we understand we are one human family, and we must respect the paths of others, their values, their belief systems, no matter how we feel about them intellectually. As well, with spiritual awakening, we're seeking a meaning, and we're seeking a purpose in our life. Pardon me, I got itchy allergy eyes. And so let's talk about emotional awakening. With emotional awakening, we begin to accept ourselves for who we are. There's not that I will be better when, or if only I could be like this, if only I was thinner, smarter, this, that, whatever. If we don't do that, that means there's a certain imbalance that needs to be addressed. We value self exploration and self improvement. People have a tendency to think that the power of positive thinking, it's fluff bunny stuff or new age stuff. No, that stuff's important. All of the stuff that we talk about self improvement, being evolving the way that we feel about ourselves and the way we feel about other people is a part of it. We take care of ourselves emotionally. We honor our emotional boundaries. We honor that sometimes we need to just not do something. We must not go out with our 20 friends that night. We must, uh, take that time to work on ourselves. Read that book on, take time to read the book on self improvement. Uh, as well, when we are in a state of emotional awakening, we have the courage to ask for help and seek it if needed. Uh, I had a very dear friend of mine who I considered pretty spiritually awake, and they consider themselves spiritually awake. But they had some emotional issues, and I would say, have you ever thought about going to a therapist or even a psychiatrist? When you need professional help, get professional help. But he had a tendency to make the appointments and say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm like, well, it's important to find the courage to do it. You'll be amazed how great it is to have a therapist or even, a spiritual counselor like myself or a spiritual mentor or something like that. Just being able to talk to somebody about the day-to-day concerns that you have um, takes courage, but it also shows that you are evolving emotionally. And then, and lastly, but not least, on this list that I had pulled up is being able to manage your stressors. Life is stressful. Um, there are two types of stress. There's regular stress, and then there's distress. But life is stressful. You could be doing something good, and it still could be stressful. Going on vacation, preparing for vacation is stressful, even though it's going to be a great vacation. As well, the day to day stuff of life, of work, and whatnot is stressful. So, I guess to round this all up, because we got to start wrapping up, is please don't forget about emotional awakening. Please acknowledge if you are having anxiety, it doesn't mean you're a bad spiritual person, that you're crappy, your spiritual awakening doesn't count. Your spiritual awakening is one part of it. Having those aha moments, having those downloads, having those epiphanies, giving you greater awareness of the universe and the world around you and how things work and how the different levels of consciousness work is all a part of it. But don't get stuck up here. Don't get stuck just up here. Bring it here also. Bring it into your feeling. I think it was last week or the week before when we talked about intentions and um how emotion is a big part of intention. So being able to learn to regulate your emotions and not have them overwhelm you is a big part in casting a powerful spell or a strong intention or in all of that. Nurture your emotions. Give yourself a break. However, don't be afraid of your emotions. There's nothing wrong with emotion. Okay? I promise you, you will be happy if you start looking into it. Um, and with that, I'll do a little plug. By all means, feel free to contact me. You can make an appointment for spiritual counseling. I'll be happy to talk to you and see what I can do to offer any advice, on what's going on with you. Just remember, I am not a therapist. I am an ordained minister, and that's all I can offer you is my personal take and advice on these kind of things. But I'm more than happy to do it. So, with that being said, I wanted to let you know. Oh, wait. I forgot. It's time for our intention. So now that we have a little bit of extra information and all of this, let's do our intention. So maybe your intention today is seeing yourself, I don't know, booking an appointment with a therapist, or booking an appointment with a spiritual counselor or life coach. Maybe your intention could be honoring your emotions, seeing yourself honoring your emotions. But whatever it is, it can be anything. Today, it's a open intention for today. So let's take a moment and close your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is to think about what it is you'd like to bring into your. So I'll just pause for a second. Okay, well, hopefully you've come up with an idea of what it is you'd like to bring into your life. Now, let's take a moment to reduce that into one phrase. And remember, start the phrase with I am. I am comfortable with my emotions. I am starting a new job. I am fill in the blank. Let's go ahead and create that phrase. Begin repeating that phrase. And as you begin to repeat that phrase, allow the imagery of it to come into your mind's eye. See yourself in that scene where the I am is happening. I am. Continue to repeat the phrase. And now I'd like you to evoke the emotion you feel. Evoke that emotion of feeling satisfied, feeling happy that this has come to pass, a feeling joy, a feeling giddy, whatever emotion is in that scene you've created in your mind. And continue repeating the phrase as you feel the emotion. And now we're going to repeat the phrase in our mind over and over, and we're going to begin to speed it up. I am. 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 Release the energy. And as we do will it, so mote it be. Blessed be. Well, mine was pretty good. I hope yours was. So before we close out, let me go ahead and say hello to a few of you on the chat. I forgot about the chat today. I'm so sorry. Hi, Sugar Venom Doll on YouTube, and I'm just Luke on YouTube, and Vivian on YouTube, and Dan Sale on YouTube, and Marion on Facebook, and Elaine on Facebook, and Liuben on YouTube. So very good. Very glad to see you all today. So next week, not quite sure. I'm gonna do what I did this week, and the the topic and the work, the intention, all of it really came through in a meditation, and I didn't do the meditation until today. Think I like this formula. So you may not know what the Grove topic will be next week, but I assure you it'll be a good one. Anyway, Please, by all means, if you'd like to become a supporter on Patreon, I would greatly appreciate it. As well, you can be a supporter on Facebook, and you can be a supporter on YouTube as well. There are like little tiers and whatnot. And you get some perks and stuff. So please check that out by all means as well. I would be more than happy to talk to you. And you're welcome to book an appointment with me. It's all automated. You can go to my website and just click on bookings, and you can do that. Anyway, I love you. I will see you next week. Have a wonderful week. Bye bye.